Hello everyone, my name is Josh Gustin. Today I will be discussing the dominance of Apple Incorporated and what critical foundations have been implemented in order to make them who they are today. In your opinion, in which of these places would you assume someone could create an idea that would later launch into becoming a multi-billion-dollar company? Would you think a university might be the place? Or maybe just in a house? Perhaps in the car, maybe with a couple of coworkers on the way to work? Or do you think a traditional office conference room may be the place for an idea to come to light? If you were like most people, you most likely never would have suggested a house. Common schools of thought would have suggested that such an impactful idea would be born in a common business setting, or perhaps during a discussion of two coworkers in the car. However, it's true. The Apple Company was originally founded in the garage of a home in Cupertino, California. No one would have guessed that Apple would later become one of the most recognizable brands in the world, having their products be used by millions all across the globe. This comes to no surprise, however, as Apple is famously renowned for consistently producing products that are attractive, innovative, and extremely easy to use. From iPads, iPods, iPhones, anything that has an I in front of it or has at least a half-eaten Apple logo on it can be trusted to be arguably the best technology that is available today. Now let's look into Apple's past. Perhaps what's more interesting than Apple's birthplace is the sequence of events that happened directly after. Apple was originally founded in 1976 by the famous Steve Jobs and Stephen Wozniak in the garage of Steve's home, which is now a historic site found in Silicon Valley. Here, Jobs, Wozniak, and other close friends of theirs birthed the thought of Apple and immediately began producing computers. In the short time span of only a year, the Apple II computer was released to the markets in 1977. Clearly, the few geniuses were onto something, as 3 years later, Apple was able to go public with their company in 1980, with a value of over 1.8 billion. Apple was favored to change the world, recreating the way in which consumers both view and value technology. Perhaps what brought Apple to where it is today is through its business strategy. Apple is among one of the most successful businesses in the technological industry. As time after time, Apple can be seen being ranked as the number one company both in profit and overall customer satisfaction. When looking at how such is possible, one must look at what strategies a company like Apple is utilizing. Apple has been able to adopt three core business strategies that have led them to become the technological giant that they are today. The major strategy being differentiation, as Apple's ability to differentiate itself from that of its competitors in both product design and functionality has allowed them to charge the prices that they do. As mentioned before, Apple's ability to differentiate them from the competition has allowed them to market their brand as being the most advanced and simplest technology to use. Such advancement leads to Apple's second strategy, that being innovation. Apple has been fortunate enough to be able to adopt some of the most advanced software, hardware, and communication in order to bring some of the most advanced technological features to their products. Year after year, if a new Apple product is released, consumers can expect there to be a new and innovative feature on that product that Apple has added for them to utilize. Such a strategy has allowed Apple to keep their competitive advantage over the competition with their industry. Lastly, Apple's ability to reach international markets with their products has allowed the company to soar in profits and continue their competitive advantage. Through the outflow of consistently innovative products, Apple has been able to coin their logo and the products it brings to become recognized the same overseas as it is in the United States. However, such competitive advantages couldn't be possible without the competitive strategies that are used to mitigate the forces that aim to deter Apple's success in their industry. As stated previously, Apple has been able to obtain competitive advantage through their business strategies of differentiation, innovation, and international awareness. However, any company existing within the technological industry can be expected to experience a series of competitive forces that aim to limit long-term success. In Apple's case, the threat of substitutes is perhaps the greatest threat to their long-term success. Reason being, any time that Apple releases a new product that is thought to be too expensive, consumers may search for more financially realistic alternatives. However, Apple is able to approach this threat head-on with the competitive strategy of innovation. Simply put, Apple's army of consumers have such a high regard for their products because they do so well in functionality what other companies try to do. Their brand loyalty to Apple comes as no mistake. As stated many times, Apple has consistently delivered products to the market that include entirely new features and concepts than last year's. Such innovation in new products is what has allowed Apple to charge the price that they do, essentially coining the phrase, "you get what you pay for." A second force that drives Apple to utilize competitive strategies is seen in the rivalry among competitors. Apple is buried in an industry that requires them to compete against other smartphone and computer manufacturers. Competitors such as Dell, Microsoft, and Samsung have challenged Apple to be better than they were the year before. Reason being, Apple must compete against their lower prices and better bargains on similar consumer electronics. Though Apple relies on innovation factor to help with such, the threat of rivalry is mainly mitigated with the utilization of the growth strategy. To put this into context, Apple was seen transitioning into portable music with the iPod in 2001. This, along with the release of the iPhone in 2007, set Apple away from just computers. Their growth strategy was set to diversify and introduce an entirely new product line. In retrospect, all such strategies have allowed Apple to keep their competitive advantage and stay on top in the highly competitive consumer electronic industry. Apple's use of an enterprise business system is vital to stay ahead of competitors and new entrants, as having such can give any company the ability to experience growth and recognize their competitive advantage. Apple's impressive supply chain management, or SCM, has given them the ability to meet demand with both consistency and quality. As seen in the photo on the left, Apple's supply chain contains five parts: sourcing, manufacturing, warehousing, and distribution, and returns. Though simple, Apple's SCM is surprisingly efficient, as Apple's chosen method of SCM has been argued as one of the largest factors that has contributed to their success. Apple's success is contributed to its selected enterprise business system, but Apple's use of information technologies can also be considered the lead factor that has led to its technological takeover. Apple has been able to utilize numerous softwares and hardwares to communicate vital information to both its customers base and employees. Additionally, Apple is advanced enough to store data on errors, problems, and complaints about selected products within their system. Such has allowed Apple to correct themselves in updates and recalls in order to keep their customers happy and satisfied and allow for the continuation of their competitive advantage. It's no secret that Apple contains a highly advanced and complex data collection processor. As seen by this quote, Apple's privacy policy warns users of its collection methods. In my opinion, such an advanced information technology method could be used to further Apple's future business involvement. A way to grow Apple's competitive advantage would be to become in agreement with other business industries. Apple already collects data on location, content preferences, and language to better their products. Thus, Apple might also be able to sell their collected data either for money or other services to selective companies or market researchers, in fact, that could see value in such information. Though this may cause controversy, however, many computer users know that the web already tracks information and is used by many marketers. To appease everyone, Apple may be able to notify its users of its involvement with other companies and in turn lower their retail price for their products. Such a trade off seems feasible, as Apple would receive some type of value for those whom desire their collected information and in turn may be able to lower their retail price for their products, as such profit is no longer needed to sustain growth considering the additional cash flow, thus keeping everyone happy and increasing Apple's competitive advantage in the industry with the use of its already advanced and very well known information technology. As one of the largest companies in the world, it's odd to recognize that Apple is seen marketing their product or services to their millions of followers, as Apple is currently only relevant on Twitter. However, Apple is also an extremely rare case in which social media and its benefits on a company aren't needed. As seen from the quote by David Berkowitz, Apple is unique in the way that word of mouth and the press alone hypes up their product enough to the point in which social media relevance isn't necessary. However, if they were actively involved on social media sites such as Instagram or Facebook, I'm confident that they would have a further competitive advantage within the consumer electronics industry, mainly because they are already in a very successful established brand and would barely need to market themselves on social media. This in turn would save thousands on marketing campaigns, but would also annihilate the competitors within their industry that aren't as recognizable as Apple's brand. Apple doesn't become the company it is without a strict and known organizational cultural and structure. Within Apple's culture, five key concepts can be identified as their most proud and enforced values. The value of excellence is perhaps the most important of Apple's culture. Reason being, only the best and brightest minds are selected to be a part of Apple. This is no surprise considering their advanced product development. Secondly, innovation. Rapid innovation within Apple is the backbone of its culture. As seen before with Apple's competitive strategies, innovation for the Apple company is expected of all employees and the products that they release. Constant creativity is also a recognizable cultural aspect of the Apple company. Apple employees are hired for their knowledge, skills, and overall creativity. Such can be seen being performed in Apple's product design and development processes. Secrecy is also a major aspect of the culture at Apple, as such minimizes theft of information or intellectual property. In fact, Apple employees agree to company secrecy, which is reflected in Apple's policies, rules, and employment contracts. The organizational structure of Apple is also strict, as their company can be described as having a hierarchical structure. Such a structure can be seen in the photo on the right. The hierarchical structure allows for tight control on Apple's business decisions on both innovation and growth. However, one can see that the downside of such a structure may be communication, as the way in which Apple is organized makes communication between department heads and the employees of lower divisions difficult. I leave you with this quote by Steve Jobs, the man who revolutionized and evolved the way in which we all use and view technology today. The people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. Thank you.